guys, how's it going? I am here with a little bit of a story time, and I don't know, like I get this question a lot because Delilah had a really unique birth story. So a lot of people ask, like, how did people react when Delilah was born? So let me just tell you how people reacted. This is actually a story about my former roommates, and these people, I mean, I consider them really close friends. We almost considered each other family. When I gave birth to Delilah, I was living with two other girls and essentially also living with their boyfriends because they were basically there all the time, at least every weekend, if not more often than that. So it was a really busy house, and it was definitely a college atmosphere. We were all in our senior year of college. We were all getting ready to graduate. It was a really exciting time, and then bam, Delilah was born in November. It was a really crazy time for me and for Brian and for my family, and I guess we'll just go ahead and get into the story. So when Delilah was born, I was in what I would consider to be complete shock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. I didn't know what had just happened to me, basically. And if you haven't seen Delilah's birth story, I will link it up there. I'll link it somewhere in the cards, wherever the card is. What we really needed was support. We needed love and kindness and support, and that's what I thought we were getting. So I called my roommates. They were like the first people that I called as soon as Delilah was born, basically, like within a couple of hours of her being born. So I called them and they came down. They, they seemed really supportive. They brought presents, like they brought clothes for us, and they seemed to be really supportive. About 24 hours later, I finally got the courage to call my mom. So a little backstory there. I had always been sort of like the golden child, or like the good kid out of my brother and I. I felt like I had made some kind of a mistake, honestly. Like I had really screwed up and I didn't know how to tell my mom. So it had been a full 24 hours before I called her, which, looking back, I completely regret. I wish my mom had been the first person that I called because she did everything that she could for us. And she still does. 9 years later, she does everything that she can for Brian, myself, Harrison, and that sweet, sweet girl, Delilah. My mom was living about an hour away from the hospital where I delivered because, again, I was in college. And I delivered in the hospital closest to my college town. So, yeah, I gave birth there, called her, and I said, I need you to come here. I just had a baby. I didn't tell her much else, but I called her and she came down. She brought my grandmother, who was kind of the rock of our family at that point, and they came down and they did what they could for us. Meanwhile, I guess my roommates, so the people who this story is really about, were kind of swirling around the waiting room and saying things like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Is she still gonna be able to live with us? Da, 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 da. Just a lot of things that kind of pointed to potentially being really unsupportive. They made red flags go up for my mom and for my grandparents. They were on high alert at that point. So I had Delilah on a Saturday and I was discharged on a Monday. So I think I was there for a full 2 days. I was back in my college classes on Tuesday. So I was back living in my college apartment. Delilah was a NICU baby, so she wasn't with me at the time. She was still in the NICU and she would be there for about another week. She was there for a total of 10 days. So I was back living in my college apartment and things were weird. Brian and I were just trying to figure out like what was gonna go on, where we were gonna live, what we were gonna do, that kind of thing. So Delilah was born on November 17th, and then I went home for Thanksgiving the night before she was discharged from the hospital. So before Delilah was discharged, I had some conversations with one of my roommates. We'll just call her Lexi. And she seemed really supportive. Like she was like, I like kids, I work with kids. I don't think it'll be a big issue. It's only gonna be a couple of months and I'm supportive of you finishing your education. Meanwhile, one of my other roommates did not have the same opinion, and while I was gone, essentially talked to this other roommate and convinced her that I and the baby would not be staying there, would not be staying in the apartment that I paid for, and if I did make that decision, that they would both move out and essentially leave me with rent that I couldn't afford. Wow. So I had just given birth unexpectedly to a premature infant in the middle of the winter, and they were going out of their way to be so unsupportive. Like, it still honestly blows my mind that people can act like that. So, and a little backstory, these are people who I had known since basically my freshman year in college. So we had been good friends for 3 to 4 years. It's not like these were people that I just moved in with at the beginning of the semester. No, these were really close friends of ours. The original roommate, we'll call her Jackie. She and I met before our freshman year. Like, we made plans to meet up. We had developed a really close relationship, and I don't know, like, I still, to this day, it baffles me that someone can throw one of their best friends to the curb, essentially. And that's honestly what I feel like happened. Well, back to where kind of the story is gonna be all over the place. I'm sorry about that. I got back to school and I didn't really know that they had talked, honestly. And I'd only been gone for a night, and I was still like trying to figure out what was happening. My mom came back down to college with me because there was like a couple of weeks until the end of the term. I think it was about 4 weeks actually until the end of the term, because I think it was closer to two or 3 weeks, because from Thanksgiving to winter break basically is when we had to make it, and then we were gonna decide what was happening next. So my mom came down and she lived basically in the apartment with us, and she slept on the couch in my apartment. And meanwhile, one of my roommate's boyfriends, who didn't really have a job and was just kind of hung out in the apartment. He didn't go to school there also, so he traveled just to kind of hang out in our apartment. He didn't pay rent there, anything like that, but he would stay up all night on the TV in the front room where my mom was to try to help us with the baby, and he would be up playing video games, and my mom said that it happened all night long. Like, are you serious? So not only do we have this preemie baby, and they had gone behind our backs to kind of have this conversation that nope, they're not gonna live here with us, not gonna happen, nope. But they're just like so disrespectful to my mom. They don't consider that we might have needs. And like, I get it. When you don't have a baby, you don't really know how to take care of one. You don't know what the hours are like, but he was up playing video games and he saw my mom with this infant. He saw her with the baby and continued playing video games all night long, because my mom would help us with the baby so that we could get rest, so that we could go to school and finish our degree. Like, are you joking? Like, this is unbelievable. Like, I'm telling the story and I still cannot fathom that people can be so disrespectful and rude. Like, I just can't even fathom it. So this goes on for like the next 3 weeks. Like, people made my mom feel so unwelcome. Like, it was so rude. Like, I can't even believe it. They made us feel unwelcome. They made Brian and I feel so unwelcome in my own home. Like, granted, Brian didn't live there, but you know, we were doing the best that we could in a really, really crappy situation. A situation we had no idea that was coming, okay? We, again, just needed support from people who we considered our friends and almost our really close family. So we like patched our way through for the next like 3 weeks, and then I think I went back down to Portland and Brian stayed in our little college town. I think that's what happened. I'm not sure why that happened that way. I think he might have needed to finish some school stuff or whatever, but again, this is like 9-year-old story. So anyways, so I go back down to Portland and Brian stays there for a couple of weeks and then he joins me. And while we were both gone, again, our roommates, like, our plan was after winter break, we were gonna have a family meeting to decide what was going to happen with the apartments and the living situation and that kind of thing. But again, while we were gone, they had another little powwow between themselves that we were not included in. And I mean, like looking back, I'm now a 30-year-old adult and we were like 20, so we were like late teens. So everybody wasn't super mature and I had to mature really quick. So I get that maybe their decisions weren't the best, but like, I just think this entire thing was just so cold and calculated, and it was, in my opinion, it was spurred by the one roommate, the Jackie person. And like, she's still, I have tried to have contact with her, this is just a side note, she still doesn't think that she did anything wrong. She still does it, and she's the same age as me. Like, I find that so humorous. And I think it's because she doesn't have kids, like she still doesn't really get it. And I don't know, like I just laugh because it's so uncomfortable and this story is just so unreal. Like I can't even believe that this happened. So they have their little family meeting, powwow, whatever, and they had planned to have a family meeting with us when we came down, but they had already like basically made up their minds that they were gonna kick us out after these two little family meetings that they had had within themselves, without us, without the people who were actually affected by this. Like, guys, we did our thing back in, you know, my hometown where my parents lived with Delilah, you know, adjusting to being new parents. We had actually done a really good job. We had gotten lots of resources and support and, you know, felt really good about things. And I wanted to keep Delilah with me in my college apartment, which, like, looking back would not have been a good idea. I had to take, I think it was like 26 credit hours in my last semester to graduate on time. And if you don't know like how credit hours work at college, 12 credit hours is considered a full-time student. Most people take somewhere between like 12 to 15 credit hours in a term. So essentially I was taking like 2 terms worth of classes to finish on time and, you know, become a parent. So I get back down there and Brian is there too, and we walk in, my mom is there too, we walk in, and my roommate, the Jackie person, her mom is there too for this family meeting. And essentially like they all kind of have come to the decision that they don't want us to live there, they don't want the baby to live there. And a couple of them also had the balls to tell me that I should drop out of school and become mom. Are you kidding me? Like, that is not even your place to say that. And one of them was a guy that was saying that. Not that like guys can't have opinions on parenting, but like, what? And the like leader roommate, Jackie, her mom was just unbelievable. Like they were like, yeah, this happened to me in college. The mom said that. She was like, one of my college roommates got pregnant too, and I just knew this was gonna happen to somebody, and it's just a, you know, we don't want this for our kid, and da 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 da. And it was just like, essentially like shaming me that I had gotten pregnant in college and that I wanted to keep my kid with me. Like I'm just so baffled. Like, so not only are we unsupported by these people that we consider to be like our closest friends, some of these people Brian had actually known since like middle school, to be honest, his roommates, but again, that's his story to tell. And they had no remorse, they had no support for us. And so that's when we made the plan for Delilah to go back down to my hometown with my parents. And so she would stay there 4 days. She would actually stay there indefinitely. And what would happen was I had my schedule, so I only had to take classes like 3 days a week. So the other 4 days I traveled back down to my hometown and I would do my studying there and just take care of my kid and just do my thing. So essentially I was driving back and forth on the freeway lots and lots of times. The entire time that I was, because I still like went back and lived in that apartment, I don't know, I wasn't someone that wanted to like ruffle feathers back then. I was really kind of timid, and I don't know, like I was kind of a doormat, honestly. And this person was like super, I don't know, in charge. She liked to always be in charge. She liked to kind of like take charge and make things happen. Like one time Brian left the toilet seat up, and in our apartment of girls, and she like walked into my room and demanded that he go down and put the toilet seat up and down like 25 times. he laughed in her face. Like, he was not doing that. He's not a child, but like, she wanted to be in charge of things. And apparently, like, she felt like this was a way for her to be in charge. So I finish up school, like, and the entire time I'm there, it's just uncomfortable. Like, they don't invite us to go do things anymore. They like made the entire thing just so uncomfortable. So it was a term's worth of time. It was a college term. So what's that, like 10 weeks? 10 weeks of just basically living in an apartment where I felt unwanted by people who previously were really close to me. Like, I don't know, and part of me is still like kind of sad about it. I don't know, like, I think about them and I think about like the milestones that we've missed in each other's life. Like, they may or may not know that I have another kid. I don't know if the one roommate, Lexi, if she ever married that guy. She had been with him since like the 8th grade. I don't know if they have kids. I don't know. I don't know if Jackie has gotten like a serious relationship or gotten married or anything or had kids of her own. Like, I don't know any of that. And I feel like if we hadn't been in this situation, our friendship might have survived. Maybe not though. And honestly, like, part of me is really happy that I saw their true colors before we continued our friendship, because I did have other friends in college who came and visited Delilah in the hospital. Like, I have one super sweet friend and I traveled to London with her and I still adore her. We're not as close as I would like to be, but you know, she has her, you know, adult life stuff and I have mine. But she was one of the only people that came to the hospital to see Delilah, and like, I treasure that memory. She didn't make me feel, you know, like I had made a mistake. She was thrilled that there was a new addition. And those are the people that I still cherish in my life, not these people who essentially like kicked me to the curb and didn't do anything but make my life difficult. The best part of this whole story though is I did graduate on time. Brian and I both did. We graduated with our degrees. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in English and he graduated with a bachelor's degree in computer science. And we graduated on time and we were moving out. So my mom was down there again. We had Delilah, and by this time she was a big girl. She was like 6 months old, and you know, she was cruising around. We were packing up the apartment, doing all of this stuff, and we bought a pie for them. And in black frosting, my mom wrote on the pie, "Humble." So I hope that they enjoyed their humble pie. I still think about that as our last like farewell. You know, we kind of got a little bit of just desserts, like no pun intended, but kind of. I don't know, I guess there's not really a point to the story, but to really be careful about the friends that you select, and the people who stay close to you in really hard situations are the people that you want to keep in your life. So yeah, that's my story about my college roommates and how they basically screwed us over. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, let me know. I would love to do more story times. I have so many stories that I could tell you guys. So leave that down in the comments below. I'm absolutely open to doing more story times. If you had a really crappy roommate situation, go ahead and leave that down in the comments below. I would love to know your roommate situations. I'm always game for these stories. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button below. I would love to have you with us. If you're one of my lovely current subscribers, thank you so much for being here. I absolutely adore you, and I couldn't do what I do without you. Don't forget to check me out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, you know, Twitter, all those things. And by the way, you guys, have fun today.